You know about Green Lawn Fertilizing. I get to relax every day thinking about my lawn being in the best hands that you can find. All right? They are based in the Philadelphia area. They are best in market, experts in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, and they're so knowledgeable. They've created their own custom blend that is helping my lawn recover. Full disclosure, I didn't pay attention to my lawn a lick once I bought this house, and then I realized real quick, yo, dude, get your head out of your rear end. You got to make sure your lawn looks pretty, and they are helping me with the recovery process, and it is unbelievable, man. They are best in class, phenomenal people. They came the other day for one of the first sessions, and we were laughing, cracking up. We were having a good time after all the work was done, of course. They got it done. It was just amazing, man. They're such great people, and you got to know that it is super important to lay the groundwork for the rest of the season, so you got to start now. Green Lawn Fertilizing is offering 2 free treatments and 10% off for the early bird. So make sure you check out the link in the description, which will take you right to their website through my link. It'll say that Brodes sent you. Do not be a fool. Make sure you make your lawn look as pretty as it possibly can and get the process started with Green Lawn Fertilizing. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome on into Bleacher Report. And yesterday, I did an entire show about the Eagles losing Fred Johnson and nobody really putting a big emphasis on that role. And as soon as I ended the stream, I checked out Twitter and I got hit with a bomb from all the reporters saying, yeah, well, it looks like the Eagles filled a role that Fred Johnson once had. They went out and signed veteran Kendall Lamm from the Miami Marlins. And I go, wow, so me and Howie Roseman are on the same wavelength, huh? Looks like I'm a genius. How about it? So, look, all jokes aside, you needed that piece. I went into detail about how you started off a win streak after the bye with him playing a monster role, and what happened in Cincinnati was what I thought was a season changer, and he played in that football game. So now you replace him with the dude who's been in the league for 10 years, who has started 8 games 2 years ago at Miami, 7 games last year with Miami. So he knows that role. And look, it's not easy to be someone who's actively waiting. You're on the bench. You know Mailata and Lane Johnson are the future of this franchise. And you just need to be prepared for whenever your number is called. That's not easy to do. The only reps you're getting legitimately are in practice. And you know nowadays, these practices aren't close to once what they were like, right? Or, game speed. You can't really replicate that game speed. So I love the fact that you got someone who's been sort of in this role for quite some time. He's going to be ready. And I want to emphasize ready when he gets his number called after working with Stout this offseason. I'm pumped. I think it's a perfect fit for what we're looking for. Kendall Lamm played for Houston. He played for Cleveland. He played for Tennessee very shortly and Miami for a handful of years as well. He's 32 years old. This is exactly what I was looking for. And I'm pumped to know that we kind of got that solidified, because you never know what's going to happen. You never know when somebody who you put a lot of, not pressure on, but you put a lot of, you just put a lot of stock into my life, put a lot of stock in the lane. If somebody needs a few weeks off as they're nursing an ankle or something happens and they go down for 6 weeks or so, hey, let's call on the guy who's been in the league for 10 years. I love it. Now, one thing I always think about when I see how many different destinations someone like Lamm has been through, do you think he gets here? He goes to the NovaCare complex. He sits down with Jeff Stoutland and realizes, holy hell, there's different levels to this. I thought it was good in Houston, or I thought it was good here, or I thought it was good there, meaning just who you're surrounding yourself with, who their respected offensive line coaches are. Now, truth be told, I don't know who the 2015 Houston Texans offensive line coach was, but I'm just saying from a 1,000-foot view here, from the bird's eye view, I wonder what's going to go through his brain, knowing that he's absorbed so much knowledge from a lot of football people over the last 10 years, and then plus what he was doing prior to getting in the NFL. And then you get a taste of Jeff Stoutland University. You get to watch behind Lane Johnson. You get to see Jordan Mailata. And I know once you're 30-something years old, you kind of are what you are. But these guys who still kick around and hang around for a decade in the NFL, they're always learning. They're always applying to their craft. If you don't, you're left behind. So I actually think that there's maybe even a step that he could take ahead, even if he's got a lot of miles on the tires, all right? Even if he's on his back nine, you don't last as long as he lasts if you don't have that desire, if you don't have that fire, if you don't have that will to continue to compete and grow and blossom as a swing tackle. So I just want to laugh a few more moments because I just think it's hysterical that I was trying to prepare my show for Monday. And let's be honest, right? It's a little bit of the dry time. You saw what happened with the, what do they call that? The tampering, legal tampering period. And then you saw some of the free agency moves. And right now you're in that lull while you're anticipating the draft and seeing who the Philadelphia Eagles are talking to and who they want to discuss with some visits and whatnot. And you try to look at 53 different versions of the mock draft to get a taste of where the Eagles might go. And guess what? We'll talk about that throughout the upcoming weeks here because there's an interesting defensive tackle name that constantly gets popped up. And I almost wonder if that's a statement to Jordan Davis. We'll see. And that's probably a discussion for a later day. But I was trying to put together an interesting conversation about how there was such a massive key contributor that just walked away, went to Jacksonville and Fred Johnson, and nobody said a peep. Nobody said a word. And as I'm laying out how big of a participant he was to the winning and how much success was happening with him out on the football field. How, you know what I think happened? Howie was probably tuning in here on Bleacher. Probably going, damn, Brodes is on to something. Let me make a call. Beep, boop, boop. Let me see what up. Yeah, here's Kendall Lamm. Just saying, maybe I have that type of influence. All right, so there's that. The next thing that I would like to discuss, I want to use the Phillies as a relationship type of thing here with the Eagles. Right now, this fan base, majority of this fan base, is really down on the Phillies. And the reason why is because they're not doing something that the Eagles do so well. And what I want to do is highlight what makes this Philadelphia Eagles organization so special. And I've seen it from Howie. I've seen it from Nick. I've seen it from Jalen. I've seen it from AJ. I've seen it from Devontae Smith. I've seen it from Lane Johnson. I've seen it from Jordan Mailata. And the list goes on and on. Hell, I've seen it from Brandon Graham. Even though he's no longer going to be in this locker room as a player, he'll still be dancing around and peeking his head in here and there. But as a player, he won't be putting on the uniform and running out of the tunnel anymore. So what the Eagles do so well, they are so willing to have uncomfortable conversations. And when you do that with respect, when you do that with a main goal in mind that everybody is bought into, then that's what separates you from great and elite, from good to great. You got to have those talks. So when you're 2-2 at the bye, and the national media is talking about how much longer Nick Sirianni is going to keep his job. And the offensive line walks into his office, and knowing the head coach is normally stubborn in this league, he listens, he hears, he's willing to open up his ears and see what his team sees. And I just think that goes a long way. But it actually starts even above that. I want to start with Howie, really. Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie almost canned Nick Sirianni in the offseason. It took them a while to actually commit to bringing Nick Sirianni back. But what do you think was happening behind closed doors when Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio were hired? Not because Nick Sirianni was waving the pom-pom saying, I definitely want these guys, but it's because Howie Roseman said, this didn't go very well. The Brian Johnson experience and the Sean Desai stuff was an absolute failure. We're not going to can you because you did get us to the postseason a bunch of years in a row, and you have a Super Bowl appearance where you went toe-to-toe with Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid. But, we're going to be harsh. We're going to be critical. What was happening is unacceptable, and this is where things got uncomfortable. I'm calling the shots. I'm picking your coordinators, and we're going to war with who I deem is acceptable. That's not easy to have that conversation. But again, if you have the main goal in mind and the focus is all everybody coming together for one objective, and that's to get that damn Lombardi trophy, it works. So you saw it from GM to head coach. You saw it from offensive line to head coach. You saw it from Jalen and AJ and Devontae. How many times did we hear, hey, the passing game is just not living up to the expectations? Hey, we got a lot to work on. What's wrong with this team right now? Hey, the passing game's just not thriving. Well, knowing their relationship off the field, knowing the family dynamic of godparents being in play with Jalen and AJ, and just knowing the close friendship that Devontae has with Jalen Hurts, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable if you want to reach your potential. Think of it like this. I was an athlete for, 18 years of my life, from age 4 to 22, and then I eventually hung up the skates, played college hockey. Well, it's been a while since I got back into the gym, right? Once I retired, it was easy for me to just relax a little bit, let my body breathe. Well, I'd say over the last 4 months or so, I've been getting heavy back into the gym, and I've been enjoying it, getting a good sweat and whatnot. And I realized throughout the first week or so that I'm not going to reach my goals unless I actually push myself to a pace where I am uncomfortable, where I feel I can't hang anymore, where I feel I am so damn out of shape, this is kicking my ass. If I just do it to a level where I'm sweating a tiny bit and I'm getting a little tiny workout in, but I'm not pushing myself to the extreme, I'm not going to get out of it what I want. And in a way, you can use that to compare it to why this Eagles team is so strong and why their foundation is unbelievable. And even when you go through one of the worst collapses in Philadelphia Eagles history, you can respond by winning a Super Bowl. That says a lot about the structure. That says a lot about this foundation, where I once thought it was broke and fractured and completely in a billion pieces, but they proved me wrong. And it's because they are comfortable getting uncomfortable. And when you do that, you get the most out of yourself. You get the best out of Jalen. You get the best out of any of these guys that had to commit to a certain style over these 16 games to make the puzzle pieces align and be the most dominant football team that we watch take the field every Sunday. So I just want to give them a lot of credit because it's not easy. And not everybody can do it. And I know we focus on the Eagles, but knowing here in Philadelphia, the Phillies are starting to pop up, that's something that they don't do. And when I realized over the last few radio shows I was doing in town that I am so disappointed on where the mentality is for the Phillies, it's because it's a complete 180 of who the Eagles are, and the Eagles are champions for a reason. And every time they were questioned, every time something happened, even with BG went on WIP and said, Jalen and A.J. Brown, it's just not vibing, essentially. I'm paraphrasing, but it was similar to that, and it went down that road. I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say things were probably a little bit awkward after that, where there needed to be some serious talking, where things really had to happen. You don't get by unless the mental makeup is super strong. And that's a big testament to Nick. Because before the season began, it was what? What is Nick Sirianni going to do? Well, he's going to manage personalities. Do you know how much money these guys make? Do you know how much personality some of these personalities are? It's not easy. It's not easy. In the professional sports scene now, where it's, let me go get my bag. Let me go get my generational money so I can set up my family. And truth be told, I don't see an issue with that. I'm not trying to make it seem like you're a bad person if you want to set up your family bloodline for years and years and years, and you can go out in free agency and cash in on an excellent season or a few years. Hey, the franchise tag stuff, this and that, you can get a big contract. You sign on the dotted lines. There is nothing wrong with that approach. But I'm saying there is something to be said about having a buy-in when majority of people see these contracts. This isn't what it was 20 years ago, all right? It was about getting your dough and your bread, don't get me wrong. But there was actually a part of this where it was more about team than it is now. Now we just live in a world where the money is so outrageous, it's so hard to ignore. You know, you get blinded by the big checks because they're so astronomical. It's insane. So to be able to have a coach that can manage all of these personalities with Howie managing how he can satisfy everybody and get the signing bonuses right and get the cap hit where it needs to be, it's just a winning organization from top to bottom. And that is something that I just want to continue to appreciate because it's not always like this. And it wasn't always like this with Jeffrey Lurie. The Chip Kelly experience was an absolute mess. In fact, that's the prime example of not being able to handle people and not being a good people person. But even with the Howie stuff, Howie season has been around, but this is the best Howie we've seen. It took Howie some time to get here. There were some examples prior to this where, you know, they kicked him down the road, said, hey, get out of here. We'll eventually get back to you when we want to. And there were a few years where it actually could have made sense for Jeffrey Lurie to step in and say, you know what, Howie, I love you. I know what you've been through. I understand your grind. I know the steps that you took to earn this role. But I think we just want some fresh life in this spot. And to Jeffrey Lurie's credit, he did it. And he valued that relationship and what Howie's strengths were, and it paid off dividends. But those type of details and those type of decisions that are made, it's what defines how great the Philadelphia Eagles are as one of the gold standards in the NFL. And it wasn't always that way, even with this regime. So I don't want to take it for granted because Lurie did give Chip Kelly all the power in the world, and it backfired. Now, I doubt he ever does that again. Howie essentially has free range for the most part, 99.5% probably free range. But, you know, I mean, him and Howie are tied at the hip at this particular time. You know what's funny? During the offseason, the New York Jets tried to run with a story, not the Jets themselves, but in Jets land, they were trying to take Howie Roseman from us. Come on, man. Come on, man. That's hysterical. Let me tell you for free, Howie Roseman, unless something so outrageous goes down and he just forgets how to be a general manager at a high clip, this man ain't going anywhere. Nobody's snagging how. You can go after Joe Douglas, and look how that transpired. You can go after anybody else. Maybe Cleveland, right? There's some ties there. You can go around the league and look for some front office members that were once tied to Howie Roseman. But it's almost Bill Belichick-like. People used to pluck from Bill Belichick thinking this guy knows it all. But his staff never really panned out that way when they took respected jobs down the road. That's Howie. Now, maybe it's because he keeps some of that secret sauce and some of that ingredients to himself. So then whenever somebody does get that chance, listen, we set you up nicely. We didn't set you up with everything because I know you're coming for us. And I can't give you all the tricks. A magician doesn't tell you the tricks. You're lucky we're giving you a handful. But you're not getting the whole thing, baby. Half of that is in the back of my mind for when you're elsewhere and we're competing in the same conference, or when you're in the AFC and we're matched up and this is for the big dance. This is for the bowl. You know what I mean? So, all right. Well, listen, I'm going to be consuming a ton of garage beer when this Philly season gets rocking on Thursday. And guess what? Even before that season starts, okay, I need it badly. 0% IPA, 100% light beer, 1,000% quality. Garage beer is the best beer to ever touch my lips. DrinkGarageBeer.com. To tie a bow on this, I really like the move of Kendall Lamm. I think it was something that they desperately needed. They are still trying to figure out the guard role, and that's going to play itself out over camp, right? We're going to watch camp, see practices. The beat reporters are going to tell us, hey, it looks like Tyler Steen's getting a lot of run with the ones, or, hey, it looks like Kenyon Green is earning his spot, and he seems to be leapfrogging over whatever Tyler Steen's providing. So we'll get that as camp kind of gets rolling. And, of course, we still got to see what moves are made, whether it's in the draft or whether it's just other guys that are fighting for a spot. You know what I mean? Like, who knows what exactly is going to transpire with this offensive line. But something they desperately needed to do was to get a swing tackle, because you can't downplay the importance of Fred Johnson. I actually got ripped a little bit by someone who listened to the show. That's okay. Listen, opinions are all what it is. It's just sports opinions. It's not that serious. But it was going into depth about how it was really more about the other four guys on the line, more so than Fred Johnson. I go, yeah, of course. Oh, there's no doubt about it. Yeah. I mean, I'd be the first one to tell you that. Of course. I'm not telling you they were great during those 6 games where the Eagles went 5-1 because Fred Johnson is an elite tackle, right? Of course not. But to win in the NFL with one of your role players stepping in for 6 games and winning 5 of them, he did something. When you're on the outside, that you do something. When you're facing Cincinnati, you're doing something. Let's not act like he just stood there and then everybody else helped him. He did something. I'm not telling you it was perfect. I'm not telling you it was elite, nonstop every snap. But if you're on the offensive line and you're winning 5 out of 6 games and you're playing tackle, I'm going to tell you something. He played roles in the wins. I can't just say it was all Cam Jurgens. I can't say it was all Lane Johnson, who's on the other frickin' side of the line. No! For whatever it's worth. Just throwing it out there. Or if, whatever side of the line. I'm just saying in general. Hey, he was out there and contributed. Don't disrespect. It's not an easy position to be in. You never know when it's your time. Never, ever, ever. So with that, I'm going to end it here. Thank you all so much. I greatly appreciate you kicking it with me. I will catch you all tomorrow, same time, 6 Eastern, right here, Bleacher Report. Have a great rest of your day, everybody, and go Birds.